When Serbian Special Forces operators touched down in Darwin in 2006, Australian instructors weren't sure what to expect. These were soldiers who'd fought through the bloodiest European conflict since World War II, men who learned urban warfare in the ruins of Vukovar and mountain combat in the peaks of Kosovo. What could Australia possibly teach warriors who'd already seen more combat than most Western soldiers would experience in entire careers? But by the time those Serbian operators completed their training and returned to Belgrade, something remarkable had happened. They discovered that real military excellence isn't just about surviving wars, it's about winning the peace that follows. And the lessons Australia taught Serbia would reshape Serbian military doctrine for the next 2 decades. Welcome to Doctrine of War, where we uncover the military partnerships and knowledge transfers that don't make headlines but fundamentally change how nations fight. The Australia-Serbia military relationship is one of the most unlikely and least understood defense partnerships in modern history. Today we're examining how a nation on the opposite side of the planet, with completely different strategic challenges and alliance structures, became one of the most important influences on Serbian military modernization. And what you're about to discover is that military knowledge doesn't flow in predictable directions. Sometimes the most valuable lessons come from the most unexpected sources. The unlikely partnership. How 2 distant nations found common ground. The story of how Australia came to influence Serbian military development requires understanding what both countries needed at a critical moment in their histories. For Serbia, the aftermath of the Yugoslav Wars and the 1999 NATO bombing left the military in a state of profound transformation. The old Yugoslav People's Army doctrine was obsolete, the equipment was aging, and the strategic environment had fundamentally changed. Serbia wasn't preparing to fight multi-front territorial wars anymore. It was transitioning toward a professional military capable of peacekeeping operations, counterterrorism, and integration with international security structures despite not being a NATO member. This required learning from countries that had successfully made similar transitions, but Serbia's diplomatic isolation and complicated relationships with Western powers made many obvious partners unavailable or politically unacceptable. Australia, meanwhile, was emerging from its own period of military transformation. The Australian Defence Force had spent decades perfecting the art of being a capable middle power, maintaining professional, well-trained forces that could operate independently or integrate seamlessly with larger allies, conducting operations across enormous distances with limited resources, and developing specialized capabilities that punched well above the nation's size. Australian Special Forces in particular had earned global respect for their professionalism, tactical innovation, and ability to conduct high-risk operations with minimal support. The Australian approach to training, selection, and operational planning represented exactly what Serbia needed: professional military excellence without the political baggage that came with training from NATO powers that had bombed Belgrade just years earlier. The initial contacts came through neutral international forums and peacekeeping operations where Serbian and Australian forces encountered each other professionally rather than as adversaries. Australian military observers noted that Serbian soldiers, while experienced in combat, lacked the institutional training structures and professional military education that would allow them to translate combat experience into sustainable doctrine. Serbian officers, for their part, recognized that Australian forces demonstrated a level of operational professionalism and tactical sophistication that Serbia needed to develop if it wanted to transform from a war-scarred military into a modern professional force. Both sides saw mutual benefit. Australia could share expertise and build relationships with a strategically positioned Balkan nation, while Serbia could access world-class military training without compromising its non-aligned status or accepting political conditions from NATO powers. The relationship began modestly with small exchanges, observer programs, and limited training cooperation. Australian instructors would visit Serbian military academies to deliver lectures on professional military education. Serbian officers would attend Australian staff colleges as individual students rather than as part of official exchange programs. These low-profile interactions allowed both countries to test the waters and build trust without attracting significant international attention or criticism. And what Australian instructors discovered was that Serbian forces had something Australia lacked: extensive recent combat experience across multiple operational environments, from urban warfare to mountain operations to air defense under sustained bombardment. The relationship wasn't just Australia teaching Serbia, it was a genuine exchange where both militaries learned from each other's unique experiences and capabilities. The breakthrough came when Australia agreed to host Serbian Special Forces for advanced training rotations. This wasn't just basic infantry skills or peacekeeping preparation. This was high-end special operations training covering counterterrorism, hostage rescue, reconnaissance operations, and the kind of mission planning and execution that defines elite military units. The decision to extend this level of cooperation to Serbia was controversial within Australian defence circles and required careful diplomatic management, but it reflected a pragmatic recognition that Serbia represented an important potential partner in a strategically significant region. And for Serbia, access to Australian Special Forces training represented a validation that Serbian military capabilities were being recognized internationally despite the country's complicated diplomatic position. If you're intrigued by how military partnerships form in unexpected places and how knowledge transfer actually works between nations with completely different strategic circumstances, you're discovering exactly what Doctrine of War exists to analyze. We go beyond the official announcements to examine how military capabilities actually develop and spread. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because we're about to dive deep into exactly what Australia taught Serbian forces and why these lessons transformed Serbian military thinking in ways that continue to shape operations today. The training relationship expanded systematically over the following years. Serbian personnel attended Australian military schools covering everything from counter-improvised explosive device operations to jungle warfare training. Australian mobile training teams deployed to Serbia to conduct in-country instruction on specialized capabilities. Joint exercises allowed Serbian and Australian units to operate together, building interoperability and allowing each side to observe and learn from the other's tactics and procedures. And perhaps most significantly, the relationship created channels for ongoing professional dialogue where Serbian and Australian officers could discuss challenges, share solutions, and develop approaches to common problems facing middle-power militaries trying to maintain professional forces with limited budgets. What made this relationship particularly valuable for Serbia was Australia's unique position as a Western-aligned nation that nonetheless maintained independent strategic thinking and wasn't bound by NATO political considerations regarding Serbia. Australia could provide training and share capabilities without demanding Serbian alignment with NATO or EU positions on Kosovo and other sensitive political issues. This allowed Serbia to access Western military knowledge and training standards while maintaining the strategic autonomy and non-aligned status that remained central to Serbian foreign policy. For Australia, the relationship provided influence in the Balkans, practical training opportunities in environments different from Australian conditions, and the ability to build defense relationships that served Australian strategic interests without requiring massive aid budgets or permanent troop deployments. The Serbia-Australia military relationship also benefited from the absence of historical baggage that complicated Serbian relationships with many European powers. Australia hadn't colonized the Balkans, hadn't invaded Serbia in multiple wars, hadn't participated in the 1999 NATO bombing, and had no territorial or political interests that conflicted with Serbian sovereignty. This clean slate allowed the military relationship to develop on purely professional grounds rather than being constantly complicated by historical grievances or ongoing political disputes. Serbian officers could learn from Australians without feeling they were betraying national dignity or accepting tutelage from former enemies. And Australian instructors could teach without navigating the complex sensitivities that often plague military cooperation between Serbia and European NATO members. Australian doctrine meets Serbian reality. Special Forces transformation. The most significant impact of Australian training on Serbian military capabilities came in the realm of special operations, where Australian doctrine and methods fundamentally reshaped how Serbian elite units organized, trained, and operated. To understand why this mattered so much, you need to understand where Serbian special forces were starting from and what Australian training brought to the table that Serbian combat experience alone couldn't provide. Serbian special forces had extensive combat experience from the Yugoslav Wars, including operations in some of the most challenging environments imaginable. Urban warfare in cities like Vukovar where every building became a fortress, mountain operations in Kosovo against guerrilla forces with extensive local knowledge and external support, and counterinsurgency operations across territories where the line between civilian and combatant was deliberately blurred by adversaries. This combat experience created hardened, tactically proficient soldiers who understood violence and could operate effectively under extreme stress. But combat experience alone doesn't create professional special operations capabilities, it creates survivors who know how to fight, which is different from creating units that can conduct the full spectrum of special operations missions with consistent excellence. What Serbian Special Forces lacked was the systematic approach to selection, training, mission planning, and operational execution that characterizes professional special operations forces in advanced militaries. Units were often organized around charismatic commanders rather than standardized structures. Training was ad hoc and based on individual unit preferences rather than systematic doctrinal approaches. Mission planning lacked the detailed intelligence preparation, rehearsal procedures, and contingency planning that modern special operations require. And perhaps most critically, there was limited institutional memory. The lessons learned in combat stayed with individuals and died with them rather than being captured, analyzed, and incorporated into formal training and doctrine that would benefit future generations of operators. Australian Special Forces, particularly the Special Air Service Regiment, represented the opposite approach. Systematic selection processes that identified candidates with the right psychological and physical attributes, structured training pipelines that built capabilities progressively, rigorous mission planning processes that left nothing to chance, and strong institutional cultures that captured lessons learned and continuously improved capabilities. The Australian SAS had learned from British, American, and their own operational experiences to create special forces that combined individual excellence with team effectiveness, tactical prowess with strategic thinking, and aggressive operational mindset with careful planning and risk management. This was exactly what Serbia needed, not replacement of their combat experience and warrior culture, but augmentation with the professional structures and processes that would make that experience sustainable and transferable. The first area where Australian influence transformed Serbian capabilities was selection and training. Australian instructors helped Serbian special forces develop systematic selection processes that went beyond just physical fitness and shooting skills to assess psychological resilience, teamwork ability, problem-solving under stress, and the judgment necessary for complex operations. The Australian selection philosophy emphasized finding individuals who could operate effectively in small teams with minimal supervision, who could maintain performance under extreme stress, and who possessed the intelligence and adaptability that modern special operations require. This was different from traditional military selection that focused primarily on physical prowess and obedience to orders. This was selection for thinking warriors who could exercise initiative within commanders' intent. The training pipelines that emerged from Australian consultation emphasized progressive skill development rather than trying to teach everything simultaneously. Basic special operations training focused on fundamental skills, advanced marksmanship, close quarters combat, small unit tactics, demolitions, and communications. This was followed by specialized training in particular mission types: counterterrorism, direct action, special reconnaissance, unconventional warfare. And finally, advanced training focused on mission planning, intelligence analysis, interagency cooperation, and the higher-level skills that separate tactical operators from special operations professionals. This systematic approach ensured that Serbian Special Forces operators developed comprehensive capabilities rather than being good at one or two things but deficient in others. The mission planning processes were perhaps where Australian doctrine had the most profound impact on Serbian operations. Australian Special Forces planning is exhaustive, detailed intelligence preparation of the battle space, multiple contingency plans for when things go wrong, careful rehearsals that allow every team member to understand their role and everyone else's, pre-positioned support and extraction assets, and clear decision points that allow commanders to adapt to changing circumstances without losing mission coherence. Serbian forces, trained through combat experience, tended toward more fluid, adaptive approaches that worked well for experienced operators but created problems when personnel turned over or when missions required coordination across multiple units or agencies. The Australian planning methodology introduced Serbian forces to tools like the military decision-making process, intelligence preparation of the battlefield, and rehearsal of concept drills that ensured thorough preparation without stifling initiative. Serbian operators learned to balance their combat-proven adaptability with the kind of detailed planning that reduces casualties, increases mission success rates, and allows less experienced operators to perform effectively. The result was special forces that retained their aggressive, combat-hardened edge while adding the professional polish and systematic excellence that characterized Australian operations. Counterterrorism capabilities received particular focus in the Australia-Serbia training relationship, because both countries faced similar challenges in this domain despite very different strategic circumstances. Australia had developed world-class counterterrorism capabilities through its Tactical Assault Group and related units, designed to respond to terrorist attacks, hostage situations, and high-risk arrests on Australian soil or in regional operations. Serbia needed similar capabilities to address terrorism threats within its borders and in the Balkans more broadly, but lacked some of the specialized equipment, training facilities, and tactical procedures that effective counterterrorism requires. Australian instructors helped Serbian counterterrorism units develop the specialized skills that distinguish counterterrorism from general special operations: explosive breaching techniques for rapid entry into buildings, close quarters battle procedures optimized for hostage rescue scenarios, non-lethal weapons and tactics for situations requiring restraint, tactical medical capabilities for treating casualties in compromised buildings, and the integration with police and intelligence agencies that counterterrorism operations require. Perhaps most valuable was the Australian approach to scenario-based training, where units repeatedly practiced variations of the same mission types until procedures became automatic and teams could execute flawlessly under the stress of actual operations. The establishment of dedicated counterterrorism training facilities in Serbia, designed with Australian input and based on Australian models, represented a tangible outcome of this cooperation. These facilities allowed realistic training in urban environments, aircraft and bus mock-ups, multi-story buildings, and other scenarios that counterterrorism units might face. The ability to train realistically and repeatedly meant that Serbian counterterrorism operators could develop the speed, precision, and teamwork that such operations demand without learning through bloody operational failures. And the Australian emphasis on live-fire training, actually shooting while moving through buildings with other operators around, ensured that Serbian units could operate with real weapons in real conditions rather than just conducting dry runs that don't replicate the stress and complexity of actual operations.